Melissa is already getting stronger, and major hurricane impacts are expected in our area. Your forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas starts right now.
This is Meteo Mundo.
Hi, my friends. Rusty back here at Meteo Mundo. We are your home for Caribbean weather. It's good to see you on a Friday. Hope you're doing well. Coming up in this video, this is a very important video indeed. All the newest information on Melissa. And I have to tell you, things continue to not look very good as far as what Melissa is already bringing to our area and the impacts it is likely to spread not only this weekend, but for several days next week. As always, Meteo Mundo is sponsored by the Lean Law Firm of Central Florida, your hometown homeowners insurance attorneys. You get property damage of any kind. They can walk you through the insurance claim process. Check them out by going to leanonmelaw.com for more information. As always, if you have a question about the forecast, feel free to drop it in the comments section below. Again, we're going to take our time. We've got a lot of important information to pass along in this video, so we'll get started. And we'll begin with what's been happening with Melissa today. You can just see on the infrared satellite imagery, we have a better looking storm. Unfortunately, the Hurricane Hunter reconnaissance aircraft have been in and out of this storm all day. And what has happened is the center is beginning to reconsolidate a little bit farther east under the deeper convection, allowing the storm to be more vertically aligned, which was always the issue the past several days. The low-level center was displaced west from the mid and the upper-level center with that shear and was preventing the storm from getting stronger despite the extremely hot sea surface temperatures. Unfortunately, the storm looks more vertically aligned, and we're now seeing a more concentric storm, and that has allowed winds to already get to 60 miles an hour. And unfortunately, there appears to be nothing to stop this storm from continuing to get stronger and stronger for days and days to come. This is going to be a frightful storm in many areas. This is a buoy here in the Caribbean, and well away from the center, it's already picking up some winds of around 35 miles an hour. This is the sandwich of the infrared and the visible satellite imagery. You can see that there's been convection on the northwest side. Now, the interesting thing is in the last couple of hours, Melissa has actually bobbled a little bit to the east, but that is basically part of the reconsolidation of the lower level center east of where it was, and a slow drift west is likely to begin in the short term. So the newest information, and this will change, and unfortunately this storm is just going to get stronger. Winds right now are 60 miles an hour, but that's a 15 mile an hour temperature climb, or sustained wind climb from this morning. Pressure's down to 997. It is creeping east southeast at 2, but that east motion is not likely to continue for very long. The center is located about 230 miles southeast of Kingston, Jamaica. We continue with the hurricane watch for Jamaica and South Haiti. We continue with the tropical storm warning for Jamaica and South Haiti, which means tropical storm conditions are likely very shortly if you're not already experiencing those, and hurricane conditions are possible in those areas. Now, let me tell you, right now, we're going to get a hurricane warning in Jamaica. It's just a matter of time when. So this is what you need to know, kind of the broad view, then we'll get into the fine-grained details. It's beginning to show signs of better organization, which means intensification is coming. It is still forecast to move very slowly the next several days. Not until early next week should we start to see some quicker forward movement with Melissa. It is forecast to become a major hurricane, and I got to tell you something, friends. The intensity forecast does not look good. It is not out of the question that Melissa at some point in time becomes a Category 5 hurricane. Catastrophic flooding is already ongoing in portions of Haiti, and that is likely to continue in Haiti and the Dominican Republic for the foreseeable future. Significant rain and impacts will begin to be felt in Jamaica starting tomorrow, but especially late this weekend and early in the week. And other islands are likely to be impacted by Melissa, potentially even as a hurricane. So let me show you the official track from the Hurricane Center. Now, there's a couple of things I need to note about this. First of all, if you look at the 11 a.m. advisory from the Hurricane Center, you're going to see this center line track is on the west side of Jamaica, okay? My data comes from the Navy, and they do updates in the intermediate advisories. So you're only going to get a track update from the Hurricane Center at 11 a.m. and at 5 p.m. and at 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. But the Navy actually puts out the intermediate advisories in coordination with the Hurricane Center, and likely the 5 o'clock advisory is going to shift a little bit farther to the east. But the bottom line is that we are expecting Melissa to begin a westward turn beginning on Saturday, slowly creep west through the weekend, and then turn north closer to Jamaica as we move into Tuesday. This is going to be Monday afternoon as a Category 4 hurricane, but already a Cat 4 late Sunday. And then this is Tuesday afternoon with potential landfall directly over Jamaica. Now, one thing you will note compared to yesterday, if I bring on our distance tool here, is that the center line track is farther south again from Jamaica. Remember yesterday it was about, 60 to 70 miles, I believe. Now it's about 100. So in the short term, right, if Melissa stays a little bit farther away from the island, potentially the hurricane impacts don't get to the island until late this weekend and beginning on Monday. But tropical storm conditions are likely to turn into the island beginning even on Saturday morning. So a little bit farther away keeps the brunt of the core winds a little bit farther south. But unfortunately, all the models have the north turn, and most of the models have a direct landfall into Jamaica as a major hurricane. And again, this is the official forecast from the Hurricane Center. And unfortunately, when you look at the wind speeds here, you're looking at a storm with 150 mile an hour sustained winds on Tuesday afternoon directly over the island. Catastrophic wind and rain impacts would come along for this. There's no reason to hype this storm whatsoever. This is as alarmed as I could be with any storm when we're talking about a Cat 4 teetering on a Cat 5, going directly over any landmass. And that's what's expected right now from the Hurricane Center from Melissa. So again, obviously, if you live on Jamaica, you need to be taking all preparations to protect yourself and your property and your family. Heed local government and official warnings. Same situation for Haiti. We may direct hurricane wind impacts. It's going to be close, but there is a ton of rain and catastrophic flooding that is already occurring across the island. And it's not just Haiti, it's all of the Hispaniola area, the southern coastline, southern sides of the Dominican Republic. You can't even really see the coastal areas here from this satellite imagery, so I'll eliminate the viz and look at the heavy rain. This is hundreds of millimeters of rain coming into this area. You're getting up to, in some spots, 100 to 200 millimeters of rain on a daily basis. That's 4 to 8 inches of rain. You're getting winds of nearly 40 miles an hour in Punta Cana. You're getting showers and storms to drive their way to Puerto Rico, or even in Puerto Rico for today, we could see some isolated flooding from time to time on the western side of the island. I do have access to the radar here out of Puerto Rico, so take a look at this. Now, it only gets you into the far eastern sides of the Dominican Republic, but you can see the moisture-laden air that is now on the eastern tip of the island all the way towards Punta Cana, and additional showers and storms that will continue to spread into the central and western sides of Puerto Rico throughout the rest of the day. And this is an area, again, when you get as far to the east as Puerto Rico, I'm not overly concerned about excessive flooding in a large area, but isolated flooding is a possibility. But it is an extreme situation right now for the southern sides of Hispaniola, and some of this is now getting into some of the higher terrain, and you're also getting winds of 35 to 40 miles an hour. So that's the current situation. I want to be clear. Melissa is expected to then get over southeast sides of Cuba, still as a major hurricane, and on the end of the 5-day track as we get into Wednesday, emerge still as a Cat 3, close to the central and southeast Bahamas and Turks and Caicos. And those will be the next areas I promise you I'll be closely monitoring. We'll take it as it comes. Again, this is a slow moving storm, so we are going to have some time to track this together over the weekend and throughout early to mid next week. When we start to look at when the weather is really going to start to go downhill, that's when your sustained tropical storm force winds begin to arrive in your area. They're basically already there on the far southwest side of Haiti towards Lacaille, but they'll freshen up and pull deeper through all of Haiti and the western sides of the Dominican Republic through the weekend. We'll start the tropical storm conditions on the far eastern sides of Jamaica, places like Morant Point, maybe on over towards Port Antonio at around 8 a.m., Saturday at around 8 p.m., and then throughout the overnight hours into Sunday morning, your sustained tropical storm force winds arrive in places like Kingston and throughout the entire island the rest of Sunday. Now, let me be clear. Okay, because Melissa is already getting stronger, the wind fields are likely to expand, and these times of arrival could be too slow. It's not out of the question that a a larger Melissa, as it gets stronger, could throw tropical storm winds sustained in these areas even a little bit sooner than what the Hurricane Center shows you on that map. So when we look at the intensity, again, we have to concern ourselves with likely a major hurricane. The official forecast, again, is a Cat 4 right now. That's the OFC line that you see. But the Hurricane Center has even mentioned that, yes, they're on the higher end of guidance, but there's a lot of models that try and make this a Category 5 if it stays in the open waters south of Jamaica for longer. So a slower movement would equal a stronger storm. This is the European model's latest run. Again, the storm is still slow to get its act together through tomorrow as far as really intensifying, but it's already beating the models as of this Friday afternoon. And then you just get a storm that really gets, unfortunately, very strong throughout the day on Sunday as it meanders south of Jamaica. And eventually, with a trough building into the west, we're going to have southwest winds to pull the storm back north into the east. But again, that might not occur until Tuesday or even late Tuesday night, early on Wednesday. But the European model, unfortunately, takes the storm, just like you saw on that centerline track, directly over Jamaica, southeast sides of Cuba, and close to the southeast Bahamas and Turks and Caicos very early on Thursday. So if you do live in the southern Bahamas and Turks and Caicos, you need to be monitoring this situation very closely. The Cayman Islands would get brushed by tropical storm sustained winds, especially Little Cayman and Cayman Brac, and we would certainly see some near hurricane force winds on the western sides of Hispaniola. These are your sustained winds. Look down here for the maximum. Again, you're getting into major hurricane status and Cat 4 status on the European model, and then pulling the storm in is likely a Cat 3 on the Euro as we get into, again, late Monday, early on Tuesday, but the impacts will be felt before that. So when we look at the Euro, because it's farther south, tomorrow we brush the southeast coastline of Jamaica with sustained tropical storm force winds, which as the storm gets bigger and expands, gets towards Kingston and towards Mandeville and Maypen and Treasure Beach and Black River, Sav-Lamar areas, on over towards Negril. You get the idea that just the deeper into the weekend that we go, the stronger the storm is going to be, the larger the wind field, and the more sustained higher end tropical storm conditions and hurricane conditions are likely. And then, of course, we get a direct impact on the European model as we get into Monday and Tuesday. Looking at the half-say model with Melissa. So now we're looking at the refined tropical models with this. It's very much in line with what we're seeing on the European model, where we have a storm coming back into the island once it's kind of sits off of the shoreline over the weekend. So you'll see the developing storm. Those are your sustained winds in miles an hour at the bottom of your screen. And again, the storm is still outperforming the half-say at this point in time, but it pulls back over the island as more than likely a Category 3 or Category 4. But based on what I'm seeing right now with what the storm is doing, these intensities, unfortunately, could even be lower than what actually occurs. But you're also seeing that we have several models now with a direct impact into Jamaica as a major hurricane, regardless of what the exact number is going to be. And obviously, we're going to have just devastating wind impacts from this storm wherever it goes, but also the rain impacts too. If the storm is on the west side, again, the right front quadrant has the most wind and has the heaviest rainfall. That's the most dangerous side of the storm here. And that right front quadrant is the one that influences Jamaica for the longest period of time. So unfortunately, and we'll look at what the Hurricane Center is showing you, potentially feet of rain could fall over Jamaica with this storm. Historic rainfall totals and potentially wind out of this storm is not out of the question. Again, I don't say this lightly, but everything that I've seen and what you guys are seeing right now in this video points to that as a possibility and in some ways as a probability. This is the half-say model. I wanted to show you this. It's a simulated radar, if you will, the simulated rain coming in with the storm. You can clearly see, again, the northeast side of the storm, the rain and the wind field is farthest away from the center, so more able to impact Jamaica for the longest amount of time. You get farther west towards the Cayman Islands, they're close, but they're on the drier side of the storm with the counterclockwise spin. All that moisture is feeding back into the eastern side, so Hispaniola gets hit very hard with the continued rain, and Jamaica is obviously covered up in the rain as well for a very long amount of time. So here's Cuba, here's Jamaica, here's Hispaniola. That's the problem, right? Through Wednesday morning. So what? We're talking like 4 more plus full days. Portions of Haiti and the Dominican Republic could get inundated with additional rainfall. They are also likely to see several feet of rain out of this. This is the HWRF simulated model. I wanted to just show you this one because it's the farthest west of these fine-tuned hurricane models, all right? So you'll see the storm do exactly what the other models have shown you, but it goes farther west, closer to the Cayman Islands. So Little Cayman and Cayman Brac would be brushed by hurricane conditions on the HWRF model, but it is the far western outlier. But look at this monster storm that pulls into the southeast Bahamas early to mid next week. So again, allowing that running up, but the east side of the storm is still over Jamaica, all of the heavier rain. Here comes southeast Cuba, major hurricane, I mean, just an absolute buzzsaw on the HWRF model, and then into the southeast Bahamas and Turks and Caicos. Wind profile from the H1 model, so the same model you just saw, but now we're looking at the wind profile. Because it stays in the open waters longer and it doesn't have the center going over Jamaica, it's even a stronger storm. But again, it could be discounting the initial conditions of what Melissa already is. So, if it's weaker to begin with and it's still pumping in a Cat 4 hurricane, what could happen if Melissa starts to outperform the intensity guidance in just the next day or two? Then you're going to really start to see these models pick up on an even more intense storm. Unfortunately, given the environmental conditions with sea surface temperatures 30, 31 degrees, the prolonged time that Melissa is likely to sit in these waters, and the very little wind shear which is now present and will not be present for the most part, Melissa doesn't have much of a top end here, right? There's not a lot of cap environmentally to stop this storm from continuing to get stronger and stronger and stronger. We need this to go away. But as I've mentioned, there is no escape path at this point in time where this storm is not going to be bringing significant, devastating, and potentially life-threatening impacts to some of our areas. The Google DeepMind model continues to narrow its window, if you will, as far as the ensemble members and where it's going. You have the vast majority making that track right over Jamaica. And that center line is now exactly where you see that from what I've shown you from the Navy at 2 o'clock, right? Right over central Jamaica. Now, potentially that could bring a little bit less wind to the western side of the island, right? But the island, relative to how big Melissa is, it's probably not going to matter. This is the other problem. Now you have this storm going right back over, right? And if the European is right, yes, you can clearly see the gradient of rain. There's going to be potentially a lot more rain on the eastern side of Jamaica compared to west, but everyone is in store for potential flash flooding. But friends, this is 4 feet of rain. This is 48 inches of rain in somewhere within this purple. The legend goes up to 20 inches, but the maximum on this map is 48 inches, all right? That is the potential rain that could be coming through until it accelerates. But that's not going to happen until it goes through Jamaica. And clearly, again, the southwest and southern sides of Hispaniola in store for additional rainfall totals that are likely to be well over 10 inches. Maybe even an additional 15 to 20 inches. It's unbelievable the amount of rain that could come from this storm. We also have to worry about the swells. That with an onshore wind, remember counterclockwise winds. So on the north side of the storm, you get easterlies pulling into places like Kingston and the eastern side of the island with onshore winds continuing for days. That could lead to inundation of water as well. If you live along the coastline, southern Jamaica, eastern Jamaica, you need to be very cautious and again, heed local government and officials, but trying to find some higher ground is not a bad idea. Again, preparations should be coming to an end fairly shortly here because weather conditions are going to start to go downhill beginning on Saturday. So look, a couple of things I want to do here. Again, this is the messaging part of this video, but to bring this all home, you know, I can't do it on this map. Hang on. I'm going to go back over here real quick. I can't even do it on that map. All right. We'll do it on another map. I'm going to show you the discussion from the Hurricane Center, but I got to get back to my weather computer to do that. My point is that I'm not pulling these numbers out of the air, okay? I'm going in lockstep with the Hurricane Center and based off the model information that I've seen. Through Monday, portions of the eastern side of Jamaica, the eastern parishes, are likely to see 10 to 20 inches of rain. That is 250 to 500 millimeters, and there's more to come potentially throughout the day on Tuesday. So that's probably not the highest end total that we could see. Western parishes about 4 to 10 inches, And it will all depend on exactly where the storm goes. If it stays east of the western side of the island, they would get the lower totals. If it pulls farther west, they could be in store for a lot of double-digit in inches rainfall totals as well. The winds are going to be a tricky forecast, okay? Because if the storm stays farther to the south, maybe it's more just tropical storm force winds through Sunday and then things really pick up. But more than likely, beginning late Sunday and Monday, from everything that I've seen, we're going to start to get hurricane sustained conditions move into the island, and especially through late Monday and on Tuesday, potentially major hurricane conditions throughout the island as well. And we've already mentioned the dangerous seas and swells. This is, again, life-threatening flooding in eastern Jamaica, life-threatening flooding through the southern sides of Haiti and the Dominican Republic, 10 to 15 inches of rain locally, but up to 20 inches to continue, 250 to 500 millimeters. There's all kinds of flash flood warnings that are going on right now. You guys know this area. If you live there, please be very cautious. But this is the kind of rainfall that the Hurricane Center notes could cut off communities from each other, could wash out roadways and, cause there to be travel that would be not available. Right? All the roads get washed out with this kind of rain and the fast moving water coming down from higher elevations. And you have a lot of mudslides and landslides that go along with this in a higher terrain area like Hispaniola. Look, and even Jamaica is included in that in some areas. Winds around 40 to 60 the farther west as you go towards Lakai, potential hurricane force sustained winds, and those large swells will continue to batter the island, 10 to 20 foot swells or 3 to 6 meters. Again, there's not a lot of escape route here. Melissa on the European model, it's even hard to see Jamaica. Again, your ensemble mean is just west of the island, but there are several members with potential tracks that are right over the island. And then the GFS is still farther east, but it's beginning to nudge west as well. Your purple line is going to be your deterministic. Remember, it was over Hispaniola and already north of Hispaniola from just a couple of days ago. It's picked up the fact that it was wrong and that the storm is slower and that it's likely to go farther to the west. And now your ensemble mean, which is in the black there, is right over Jamaica. Again, on the GFS, you can't even see the island. So this is what you need to prepare for, guys. Interest in these areas should be finishing up or hopefully already done with their preparations. The Dominican Republic and Haiti as the catastrophic flooding continues. Jamaica, significant flooding and hurricane force winds. You do have at least through today and in some parts of the island on Saturday, but I would want to be done with everything I need to get done as early on Saturday as I possibly can. If you live in southeast Cuba, the central and southeast Bahamas or Turks and Caicos, you need to take this storm very seriously and closely monitor what is going to be happening with this storm over the weekend, because based on everything that I'm seeing, these areas are likely to also get direct impacts early to mid next week. We have a lot more to go. Appreciate you guys taking a quick second, hitting that like button. If you haven't subscribed, you want these updates. First of all, you guys know I'm going to be going live for what is likely to be the next days and days and days. We'll be running our weather computer radar live as well. There's a lot of things that we can bring you in a 24/7 coverage kind of situation. But as the storm approaches areas, I'll be going on live. So the biggest thing you can do out of all of this is to share this channel with your family and friends. Anyone who you think could get something out of this for this timely information, that's the most important thing, is we get this information out. And of course, I appreciate all those who support the channel as well. So I do, as I mentioned, want to show you guys the latest advisory from the Hurricane Center. And of course, it's not pulling up. Oh, because I've got the wrong one. I apologize. This should work. All right. And the reason why I want to talk about this is you're like, all right, Rusty, these rainfall totals, what are you talking about? I want to show you what the Hurricane Center is talking about. And they use the word catastrophic throughout a lot of this and devastating. And they don't use those words very lightly. But read with me. Melissa is expected to bring 10 to 20 inches of rain to portions of southwest Haiti and eastern Jamaica through Monday with locally higher amounts possible. Okay? So eastern Jamaica, that's what we're talking about. In their headline, right? Melissa reorganizing, poised to intensify substantially over the next few days, life-threatening and catastrophic flash flooding and landslides, especially expected in portions of southern Hispaniola and Jamaica through the weekend. And then when we look at the discussion, which is kind of the nuts and bolts meteorological aspect of this, but just to kind of, again, give you an idea that the Hurricane Center has this as a high-end Cat 4. You get to 157 and you've got a Cat 5. So we're not that far away in the long term to potentially be talking about a Category 5 storm. please take this as seriously as you ever have if you live in these areas. And obviously, we'll have a little bit of time over the weekend to continue to update this. Is this track set in stone? No. But I think it's just more of a matter of fact of where or how close to Jamaica it's likely to come. I don't think that this storm is going to do anything, crazier than that as far as going in a completely different direction. So it's just how strong it gets and exactly where on the island it's going to go. And then down the road, what are the continued impacts for Hispaniola and Cuba and the southeast sides of the Bahamas and Turks and Caicos as well? Other areas are going to be impacted by this storm, unfortunately. Now, in the short term, the rain will continue to spread back over Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. Will dry out a bit overall in the eastern sides of our area. Will also dry out a bit through most of our western areas. I'm still expecting some showers and storms to redevelop in a localized fashion over portions of Belize and Guatemala and Honduras. Drier conditions over most of the Yucatan. It's going to be a lovely forecast. Now, again, these winds that you're seeing are gusts. So we still have some breezy conditions in the northern Bahamas right now, but at this point in time, they're looking pretty good. We have our live cameras. Let's show you those. It's a live look outside to Oranjestad. Now, again, this is an area, the ABC Islands on the south side of the Melissa. As the storm gets stronger, we'll start to pull in more moisture all the way from the northern sides of South America. I would expect skies to remain relatively cloudy and from time to time, an isolated shower or thunderstorm is possible. More localized rain is possible for St. Lucia, but a very isolated fashion, and it's a relatively nice weekend ahead. And we're looking okay so far in central Eleuthera here in the Bahamas. Again, we have a fresh breeze outside. I would not expect at this point in time Melissa to bring direct impacts as far north as central Eleuthera in the Bahamas. But our other camera in Long Island, that's an area we'll have to watch out for. Anywhere in the central and the southeast Bahamas, and especially Turks and Caicos, we'll have to really closely monitor for next week. So this is the rain forecast island by island. Again, relatively dry northwest Bahamas. What's interesting is that based on the reflectivity profile of Melissa that I've seen, we'll actually get a little bit of drier air nudging north to lower the rain chance Sunday, Monday in the southeast Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, but then rain chances should improve again very quickly on Tuesday and Wednesday. Cuba's rain chances on the southern side and southeast side of the island will be exceptionally high. Cayman Islands rain chances again, let's hope our friends in the Cayman Islands don't get those direct hurricane impacts and we just get some tropical storm squalls coming in from time to time throughout the weekend ahead. Belize City, Cancun, and Cozumel more isolated. Obviously very wet, stormy. This doesn't tell the story, but you get the idea of how wet it's going to be. Jamaica, Haiti, the Dominican Republic. Still very high rain chances in Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands tomorrow, fading a bit through Monday, but still on the moderate side. Bermuda has good rain chances tomorrow, then scattered Sunday, Monday. Anguilla, St. Kitts and Nevis, it's still more localized. There's still a bit of moisture from Melissa spreading even into the Leeward Islands. It's not going to be a heavy all-day rain, but the overall chance for showers in the Lesser Antilles in general through the weekend is still higher than average. Antigua, Barbuda, Montserrat, Guadeloupe, a little bit drier towards Dominica and Martinique, and then we'll see more isolated rain for St. Lucia, SVG, Barbados and Grenada, Trinidad and Tobago. Not a lot of rain, but just a few scattered showers and storms. Suriname and Guyana with, again, more isolated than anything. Not a lot of rain in the forecast for Nueva Esparta. And the ABC Islands, again, a few showers out there, but nothing that'll be extremely prominent. First of all, again, if you are a vlogger anywhere in the area, Jamaica, Haiti, the Dominican Republic, Cayman Islands, Turks and Caicos, Puerto Rico, wherever, you want to send me a video, I can tell you what I'm looking for by emailing me. It's mymediamundo@gmail.com. I'll also make that a pinned comment on the video so you guys know that. You can also follow us across all of our social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok, X, and Facebook. And again, you have a question about the forecast, please feel free to drop it in the comments section below. Please also remember that Media Mundo is sponsored by the Lean Law Firm of Central Florida, your hometown homeowners insurance attorneys. They offer free consultation and policy reviews. Check them out, leanonmelaw.com. for more information. Friends, I've got you covered. There's a lot of coverage that we're getting together here on the back end. So look for a lot of live streams with me personally being on, with our radar system running live for you guys so you can keep up to date 24/7. Our thoughts are with all of our friends who are going to be impacted by this storm. We will certainly keep you guys in mind, and I've got you updated. I will be back very soon right here at Media Mundo.